If you guys are anything like me, then you're probably sick of the general treatment that animation gets from studios these days, and are also counting down the days until the likely tag strike this year, but that's unrelated. Specifically, I'm talking about how it feels like if you're looking for animation, you can find stuff that's extremely censored and developed for children's consumption, or you can watch animation where the writers use sex, gore, offensiveness, and swear words as a crux for every single joke, to the point where it feels like it was written by teenagers who have just discovered these concepts more than actual adults. And obviously, there have been exceptions throughout the years. I'm being hyperbolic. But it doesn't really feel like there's a proper place for rich adult animated television that actually uses the content of a more mature setting to enhance the story being told. So, why am I saying all this? Well, the more astute of you have probably looked at the title and thumbnail and realized that, in my opinion, Scavengers Reign is one of these exceptions. One that has seemingly flown under the radar of many, which is sad because it was probably my favourite show of 2023 and it seems like the majority of people don't even know it exists. So today I'm going to explain why this show is awesome and why you, yes you, should watch it. This will be a mostly non-spoiler video. I'll mention when I get to spoilers because, man, I need a gush. Scavengers Reign is a sci-fi story about a group of a deep freighter working for some colonial organization who crash land on a planet called Vesta. Now, Vesta is a planet that I constantly switch between wanting to live on and wishing that no human ever actually sets foot on a planet like it. The story is simple on paper, following multiple groups of people as they quest to get the hell off the planet. However, the presentation is done almost perfectly. The show is paced so well, and it feels like not a moment is wasted. Many scenes are meticulous and slow, which draws you into the world and story. There was not a single time that I was upset to switch back to a different character's perspective, because there's always something interesting going on to every character. And none of the characters have too much or too little screen time. The tension is constantly but slowly building, and coming back to watch every batch of episodes weekly was an absolute treat. And actually, tangent time, the episodes were released each week in threes, which meant that the creators could tell larger stories across the episodes more easily, and just in general, the episode releases felt tailored to the actual story. I know this doesn't matter to any of you since the show is already out fully and you could just binge it, which would still be awesome, but I think that more executives should give their creators more options as to how many episodes to release each week. It felt like a nice mix between Netflix's binge model and the more recent weekly release schedule by Disney. Okay, tangent time over. One of my favourite parts about watching this show was the 2 or 3 times each episode when they would just hit me in the face with an establishing shot of a breathtaking new environment. If any of you have played Subnautica, you know the feeling of stumbling into a new, crazy biome. And that's pretty much what it felt like watching this show. And yeah, emphasis on the crazy. I don't want to get into any spoilers yet, but the creators were able to go ham with the fauna and flora that they introduced. And all I'll say is that I want whatever creative juices they were having. The show even depicts the types of food chains and animal behavior, making the world of Vesta feel alive. This little dude is my favorite. I mean, look at it. It shouldn't be able to exist. It's just a silly, goofy band-aid. Another particular highlight for me is the plant species that two of the characters had to face during episodes 7 to 9. It was gruesome and terrifying and creative and made me say nope out loud so many times, but also it was just so damn investing. And of course, the animation in the show perfectly captures the disturbing shit that goes on, as well as the beauty of the planet that our characters are stuck on. The background artists especially deserve a pat on the back. There are so many environments that I'd love to be in, except not really because I would die a bloody death. I really appreciated the balance of gory imagery used in the show. I would definitely say it was used often, but not often enough that I was desensitized to it. Whenever there was blood, it still left an impact on me. It felt brutally realistic, and there was some truly invincible level shit going on at a couple moments, which I love to hate. But really, what set this show apart for me compared to pretty much everything I've watched recently was that I felt real fear whenever anything would happen to a character. Like when this motherfucker showed up on screen, I was terrified. The way that the show is structured means that the show wouldn't be ruined if one of the characters happened to perish, as there were multiple plot lines that didn't need that character and new plot lines being added. So while I was pretty sure a character would be fine, I could never really be 100% sure. And sometimes I was proven wrong. Everything that happens in this show happens realistically. There's never many moments where a character survives just because the plot needs them to, which means the stakes are constantly high. And I really, really didn't want any of the characters to die, because they were also likable and real. I feel like when considering this show, it's easy to leave out the dialogue and the voice acting, but that's just because it blends in. The dialogue and the delivery is also natural, to the point where they didn't even feel like voice actors playing characters, but just real people. And I know that it's probably how it's supposed to go, but I still think it's a hard job to pull off. The way people talk and act does feel so true to real life. For example, just in the first episode, I like it when one of the characters does this.
Okay.
It makes it feel less scripted and more like a guy just trying to get a machine to work. And to talk about the actual characters, I probably need to get into spoilers, because really, the plot of this show is spelled out from the beginning. It's the character's emotional journey that takes center stage. And when I put it like that, I think it's a major reason why I think the show is so good, because it places characters first, and organically tells the compelling stories of these characters while the plot is happening. Anyway, the bottom line is the characters in this show are very good. They feel complex for the show, even seeming like it's trying, even though it definitely is. Everything about the show is basically perfect, so go watch it now, and then watch my spoiler thoughts. Or just keep watching. I can't really stop you. I'll wait a second for you to make a decision. Okay, cool. Well done on making a decision. So I really like all the characters in this show. I love how much variety and types of people there are. We really get to see the many different experiences that you could go through when marooned on a planet like Vesta. And I feel like this is best exemplified by Chris, Terrence, and Barry, who, when they were first introduced, I was a bit confused. I was very invested in my smaller cast of characters, like a protective parent who wanted nothing but the best for them. Just ignore the fact that literally all of them are older than me. Anyway, despite my original misgivings, the group of scavengers added a whole other layer to a show which had many different themes being thrown around, and it turned out that their inclusion was definitely not a mistake, as Barry turned out to probably be one of, if not my favourite characters. Granted, I did feel that them being added late into the show did have one single problem, which is that Ozzy went to attempting to murder Chris very quickly. I understand that Ozzy had been on the planet for a while, which might have affected her decision making, and that she was concerned Chris would try to leave without the crew members. However, Ozzy specifically says that
if you ever pull that shit again, you're gonna get a stark fucking reminder of what fear is.
But Chris doesn't really do that. She's just generally an asshole. This might be a point that some disagree on, but in my opinion, it seemed a bit early to go straight to murder, but that's really my only gripe in an otherwise perfect arc. Chris and Ozzy's ideological battle is very interesting to watch, especially because Chris has some good points, if not for the unfortunate detail that she's absolutely insane. You can get the sense that she doesn't really give a shit about Ozzy, and I feel like the show could have gone either way with whether she actually cared about Barry, but yeah, it turns out she's a scumbag through and through, which isn't entirely surprising, but it was still exhilarating, as she definitely added a certain wild card to the proceedings in the finale. As the events of episode 6 fuck Ozzy up, and rightfully so, it also fucked me up. It had been a while since I'd just finished an episode, staring at my screen in silence for a few seconds. Seeing Hollow come along and effortlessly ruin an epic plan that Ozzy and Levi came up with, getting us invested, and then how it completely shook Ozzy, who seems quite unshakable, really shook me up in regards to Hollow. Like, I remember specifically the end of episode 9 giving me the most intense level of dread. And then Chris comes along and tells Ozzy that to deal with her fear, she's just got to close it off. Show as little care as possible, and only keep the people that you absolutely need, which really represents Ozzy before she crash landed on Vesta, just to a slightly lesser degree. She's pragmatic and mainly cares for stuff that will get the job done, but after potentially losing out on her chance with someone she clearly loves, and also learning to respect and appreciate Levi as a person rather than just by what they can give, she rejects Chris's ideology. However, she still doesn't really have a way to deal with her fear of Hollow, and I think it's really symbolic for Levi to end up defeating Hollow and saving Ozzy, because it proves that hope and trust are more powerful than the anger, depression, and isolation that Hollow represents. And I know this all sounds like recapping, but I'm just saying that this is how you write good stories. Have characters, environments, and enemies be intrinsically linked with the characters and growth. And if you can do that, plus making the enemies and environments extremely interesting in their own right, which Scavengers Reign does, then you can make stories that tell so much with relatively little time. Wow. I talked about these guys way more than I thought I would. Don't worry, I don't have as much to say about the other characters. I really like Sam and Ursula. They're both extremely fun characters to watch, and the epitome of what I meant when I said that the characters in this show feel real. I like how Sam starts off as the much more authoritative figure, but over time we learn that Ursula definitely has as much, if not more qualities for leadership than Sam does. Her intuition and perseverance save them both multiple times over, and her response to Sam complaining about Cayman showed her ability to see both sides of the situation much better than Sam. That's not to say Ursula definitely would have been able to avoid the whole Cayman situation, because Cayman is Cayman, but I think there was certainly a chance. We also see that Ursula is much more prone to adaptation, which is a running theme in the show. Characters who are willing to see new points of view, like Ursula, Barry, Ozzy, and Levi, are the good guys, and Cayman, Hollow, and Chris, who will not adapt, are the bad guys. I think that Sam is in a weird middle point where he struggles to adapt and understand other perspectives, i.e., how he handled Cayman, but he tries his best, making him not a bad guy, but still dying in the end. Anyway, I wasn't really sure where Sam and Ursula's arc was going for a long time, but honestly, I really didn't care. I just enjoyed watching two people who lived on the same ship, but so far apart in the command chain that they never would have become friends otherwise, forming a close bond. I also loved how, for the most part, they just implicitly trust each other. Nothing pisses me off more than when characters just don't trust each other for unreasonable amounts of time, despite being friends just for drama. Like, when they were being chased by the Sam clone, and Ursula's like, Sam, what the fuck are you doing outside? And he's like, bro, I've literally just been sleeping here. It would have been so easy for Ursula to distrust him, but she doesn't. She just takes his word. However, it was when I saw this shot that I started to see the whole point of their journey. Maybe it was the Arrow story in Tales of Ba Sing Se or something, but when I saw this tree, a part of me knew that Sam was gonna fucking die. And as much as I cried to his death, and as much as I loved what it meant for their characters, in terms of Sam making Ursula's leadership status as official as it can be, I wish that the fact that the parasite would kill Sam was foreshadowed too, because that lady survived implied decades with the parasite inside of her. My assumption is that since Sam refused to do its bidding by not infecting Ursula, it gave up on him, but when it first happened, a part of me felt that it was a little forced. Also, I feel like Ursula and Sam's arc had the most crazy shit in it, apart from Cayman, I guess, but I'll get to that. Like, between Stabby Clone Kill Plant and Fucked Up Attached to Your Heart Parasite, I feel like I got the biggest range of interesting ideas and moments, especially in this sequence. Like, it's so different and silly compared to what we usually get, but now that I think about it, it also shows how something is terribly wrong with Sam. So yeah, I love the variety of emotions and moments of Sam and Ursula's journey. On paper, I don't like Caitlyn's story as much. Don't get me wrong, it's still good, it's still a story in Scavengers' reign, making it excellent. I think just for me, it didn't jump out as much. Possibly because we spent much less time with him, or because we didn't get the full range of emotions with Cayman like we did the other characters. That being said, the way they presented Cayman's journey and mental state is so fucking cool. Slowly learning about how Cayman got to the point of brokenness that he was in through flashbacks was pretty standard stuff, but was elevated by the context of these flashbacks. Of course, being manipulated by a four-legged, human-headed creature with telekinesis and the ability to bring up memories. I mean, Hollow is just something else. When it started doing this thing with the black shit, I was so intrigued. I just love this show's brand of weirdness. I feel like a creature who merged minds with a deeply troubled human and manifested the worst emotions brought on by that trauma in the form of revenge, all the while not allowing Cayman to heal and hide instead, is unlike anything I've ever seen before, and is a perfect way to represent the anti-themes of a show and the villain. It just scratches all my itches. And of course, seeing Hollow grow and enslave Cayman really set the stage for the paranoia I felt watching it slowly get closer to the other main characters, who I felt way more connected to. Sorry, Cayman. Overall, the reception for this show was very positive, from those who have seen it. But as I said before, it feels like it went under the radar for so many. So please, spread the word about this show. I really, really needed season 2. And if you disagreed with any of the takes in this video, I'm sure we'll be able to have a reasonable conversation in the comments. Anyway, this video was longer than I bargained for, so bye.